The Henderson family gathered in their modest living room, faces twisted in shock as Terrence pulled out a black American Express Centurion card and placed it on the coffee table. The same Terrence they'd pitted for months. The same Terrence they'd reluctantly allowed their adopted daughter Emma to marry out of desperation. "This can't be real," Denise Henderson whispered, her hand trembling as she reached for the card that only the wealthiest possessed. Her husband Raymond stood frozen, his mouth slightly open. Their son Malik picked up the card, examined it, then dropped it like it burned his fingers. Emma sat beside Terrence on the worn couch, tears streaming down her pale cheeks, but these weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of betrayal, confusion, and something else she couldn't quite name. 3 months of marriage, and this was how she discovered the truth. "How long?" Emma's voice cracked. "How long were you going to let me believe we were struggling?" Terrence reached for her hand, but she pulled away. The man she'd married wore the same thrift store jacket he'd worn to their courthouse wedding, the same scuffed shoes, the same humble smile that had made her fall in love with him despite her family's objections. "Emma, please let me explain," Terrence said softly. "Explain?" Raymond finally found his voice, stepping forward. "You let us think you were some struggling mechanic, barely making ends meet. We gave you our daughter because we thought you were humble, honest, hardworking." "I am all those things," Terrence replied calmly. "You're a liar," Malik shouted. Denise sank into her chair, fanning herself. This was the same young man who'd shown up to Sunday dinners with grocery store flowers and homemade sweet potato pie. The same man who'd fixed their old Buick for free and never asked for anything in return. The black card sat on the table between them like a grenade with its pin pulled, and nobody knew what would explode first. 6 months earlier, Emma Henderson had been sleeping in her car behind the Walmart on 5th Street. At 23 years old, she'd aged out of the foster system 3 years prior with nothing but a high school diploma and a series of broken promises from families who never quite wanted to keep her. The Hendersons had been her last foster family, taking her in when she was 16. They were good people, church-going folks who lived in a small ranch house in the suburbs of Atlanta. But when Emma turned 18, the state checks stopped coming, and though they cared for her, their own financial struggles meant she had to find her own way. She'd been working 2 jobs, trying to save for community college, when she lost both positions within the same week. The restaurant closed down, and the retail store cut staff. Her landlord gave her 3 days to vacate, and suddenly Emma found herself with nowhere to go. That's when Denise saw her. It was a Tuesday morning at the grocery store. Emma was using the bathroom to wash up, trying to look presentable for a job interview, when Denise walked in and recognized her immediately. "Baby girl, what are you doing here at 6 in the morning?" Denise had asked, concern flooding her warm brown eyes. Emma tried to lie, but exhaustion won. She broke down and told Denise everything. Within an hour, she was back in the Henderson home, sleeping on the couch that had once been her bed during her foster years. "Your family," Denise had said firmly, despite Raymond's worried glances at their own mounting bills. "We don't turn our backs on family." But family came with complications. The Hendersons were drowning in debt. Raymond's construction work had dried up, Malik was trying to finish his last semester of college, and medical bills from Denise's diabetes medication were piling up. Another mouth to feed, even one as grateful as Emma's, was a strain they could barely hide. That's when Denise hatched her plan. She'd met Terrence at church 3 weeks after Emma moved back in. He was new to the congregation, quiet, always sitting in the back. He worked at an auto repair shop downtown, lived in a small apartment, drove a beat-up Honda Civic, and seemed like a decent, God-fearing man who just needed a good woman to settle down with. "He's a little older than you," Denise had told Emma one evening, her voice casual, but her intention clear. 32. Hardworking. Respectful. Not much to look at in terms of money, but he's got character. Emma had felt uncomfortable with the suggestion at first. It felt transactional, almost medieval. But then she met Terrence at a Sunday service, and something unexpected happened. He smiled at her, really smiled, like she was the only person in the room. He asked about her interests, listened when she talked about her dream of becoming a teacher, and never once made her feel like a burden or a charity case. When he offered to help her practice, Emma stood on the Hendersons' front porch, her chest heaving as she tried to process what just happened inside. The October air was crisp, but she barely felt it. Behind her, she could hear raised voices through the thin walls. Terrence stepped outside, closing the door gently behind him. He didn't try to touch her this time, just stood there with his hands in his pockets, waiting. "Talk," Emma said, her voice harder than she felt. "You owe me that much." Terrence exhaled slowly. "My grandfather started a small software company in 1995. Nothing fancy, just business solutions for local companies. When he died 8 years ago, he left it to me. I was working as a mechanic because I loved it, not because I needed the money. The company grew. We got bought out by a larger firm, but I kept a 40% stake. Last year alone, that stake was worth $12 million. Emma's knees went weak. She gripped the porch railing. $12 million. "Give or take," Terrence said quietly. "But Emma, I need you to understand something. I've had money for years, and all it's brought me is fake friends, gold diggers, and people who saw dollar signs instead of me. Women who laughed at my jokes when they found out about my bank account but ignored me when they thought I was just a mechanic." "So you lied to me?" Emma's voice rose. "You lied to my family?" "I didn't lie. I just didn't correct assumptions." Terrence finally looked at her, his brown eyes intense. "Everything I told you was true. I do work as a mechanic. That shop downtown? I own it, but I still get under the hoods because I love it. I do live modestly because expensive things don't make me happy. The only thing I wasn't honest about was the number in my bank account." "That's not a small detail, Terrence," Emma shouted. "We ate ramen noodles 3 times last week. I've been picking up extra shifts at the diner, exhausting myself, thinking we needed the money." "I know, and I'm sorry. I was going to tell you, I swear. I just wanted to be sure." "Sure of what?" "That you loved me for me." Terrence's voice cracked slightly. "Emma, do you know what it's like to wonder if someone's with you for your money? To question every smile, every kiss, every I love you. When I met you, you didn't care that I drove an old Honda or that I couldn't afford fancy restaurants. You laughed at my jokes when they were actually funny, not because you were trying to impress me. You fell asleep on my shoulder watching free movies in the park. You made me feel like I mattered, not my bank account." Emma felt tears burning her eyes again, but she blinked them back. "So this was all a test? Our entire relationship?" "No," Terrence said firmly. "The relationship was real. The love is real. The test was for me, not you. I needed to know I could trust my own feelings, that I wasn't being played again." The front door opened and Raymond stepped out, followed by Denise and Malik. Raymond's face was hard, protective. "Emma, baby, you don't have to stay out here with him," Raymond said. "Come inside." But Denise put a hand on her husband's arm, her eyes on Terrence. There was something calculating in her expression that made Emma's stomach turn. "Terrence," Denise said slowly, "you said you wanted to be sure Emma loved you for you. Well, now she knows the truth. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Terrence frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Denise continued, her voice taking on a strange edge, "you've been playing poor while my baby girl worked herself to the bone. You let us think you were barely scraping by while we worried about her future. Seems to me you owe this family something for the deception." "Mama, what are you doing?" Emma asked, a cold feeling spreading through her chest. Raymond caught on quickly, his earlier anger shifting to something else. "Denise is right. We took you in, Terrence. We trusted you." Terrence spoke for several blocks. Finally, Emma broke the silence. "I'm still mad at you." "I know," Terrence said. "You should have told me." "I know. But they were worse." Terrence glanced at her, something sad in his eyes. "People show you who they are when money enters the picture. I learned that lesson a long time ago. I'm sorry you had to learn it tonight." Emma stared out the window at the passing streetlights. Everything she thought she knew about her life had been turned upside down in one evening. Her husband was a secret millionaire. Her foster family had tried to extort him. And she was caught in the middle, unsure of what was real anymore. "Where are we going?" she asked quietly. Terrence pulled into a gated community Emma had never seen before, the kind with actual security guards. The house that appeared at the end of the tree-lined drive made Emma's breath catch. It wasn't a mansion, not like the ridiculous estate she'd seen on TV, but it was beautiful. A two-story craftsman-style home with warm lights glowing from the windows, a wraparound porch, and a garden that, even in the darkness, looked carefully tended. "You've been living here? This whole time?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Terrence parked in the driveway and turned off the engine.
"No.
I bought it 2 weeks after we got married. I've been having it furnished, getting it ready. I was going to bring you here next month, for our 4-month anniversary. I wanted to tell you everything then, show you this place, and start our real life together." He got out and opened her door, leading her up the porch steps. Inside, the house was even more stunning. Hardwood floors, comfortable furniture that looked lived in rather than expensive, bookshelves lining the walls, and photographs in frames that made Emma stop in her tracks. They were pictures of her. Emma at the park, laughing at something off camera. Emma at the diner where she worked, caught in a candid moment. Emma asleep on Terrence's couch, peaceful and unguarded. "You were documenting us," she said softly. "I was documenting the happiest months of my life," Terrence corrected. "Emma, I need you to understand something. The money, the house, all of it means nothing without you. These past 3 months in that tiny apartment, eating ramen, watching old movies on my laptop, those were the best months I've had in years. Not despite having less, but because I had you." Emma walked through the living room, running her fingers along the back of a couch that probably cost more than she'd made in a year. In the corner sat a desk with a brand new laptop and a stack of community college catalogs. "You remembered," she whispered. "I told you once I wanted to study education." "I remember everything you tell me," Terrence said, staying near the doorway, giving her space. "There's a fund set up in your name. Enough for a 4-year degree at any university you want, not just community college. But Emma, I need you to know that money comes with no strings attached. If you decide you can't forgive me for the deception, if you want to leave, that fund is still yours. So, is this house if you want it? I'll move back to my apartment." Emma turned to face him, tears streaming down her face. "Why didn't you just tell me from the beginning?" Terrence moved closer, his own eyes wet. "Because I'm broken, Emma. My ex-fiancée, Keisha, she seemed perfect. We dated for 2 years before I told her about my wealth. The moment I did, everything changed. She became someone else overnight. Started planning elaborate weddings, inviting people I'd never met, spending money like it was water. When I asked her to sign a prenup, she left me and sold a story to a local blog about how I was a controlling, cheap millionaire who didn't trust anyone. After that, every woman who approached me, I wondered if they'd somehow found out about my money." He sat down on the couch, and Emma sat beside him, leaving a small space between them. "When I met you at church," Terrence continued, "you were helping Denise set up for the bake sale. You smiled at me, and it was just a normal smile. Not flirtatious, not calculating, just friendly. Then we started talking, and you treated me like I was just a regular guy. You never asked about my job prospects or my career goals. You asked about my favorite books, my dreams beyond work, what made me laugh. You saw me, Emma.
The real me.
And I fell in love with that, with you seeing me and not my bank account. But I deserve to know," Emma said. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Tell me something true. Something you've never told anyone." Terrence took a deep breath. "I'm terrified that I'm not good enough for you. Money doesn't fix that fear. Success doesn't fix it. You're strong, Emma. You survived a childhood that would have broken most people. You kept your heart soft despite every reason to become hard. You're kind even when people don't deserve it. And me? I'm just a guy who got lucky with a software company and is too scared to be honest because he might lose the only real thing he's ever had." Emma turned to him, and for the first time that evening, she reached for his hand. "I'm terrified too. Terrified that I'm going to wake up and this is all fake. Terrified that you'll realize I come with too much baggage. Terrified that I don't know how to be in a healthy relationship because I've never seen one modeled properly. Then we'll be terrified together, Terrence said, squeezing her hand. And we'll figure it out, one honest conversation at a time. Emma managed a small smile. I'm still processing everything. The money, the house, what happened with the Hendersons. I'm not ready to say everything is okay. I don't expect you to be, Terrence said. Take all the time you need. I'll sleep in the guest room. You take the master bedroom. Tomorrow we can talk more, or we can just exist in the same space. Whatever you need. Actually, Emma said, I think I need you to show me the rest of the house. And then I need you to tell me everything. Your childhood, how you really made your money, what you do with it, your real dreams, all of it. No more edited versions. If we're going to make this work, I need to know who I really married. Terrence nodded, relief evident on his face.
Deal.
But first, there's something upstairs I want to show you. He led her up the stairs to a room at the end of a hall. When he opened the door, Emma gasped. It was an art studio, filled with natural light from a skylight, easels, paints, brushes, and canvases. Everything an artist could need. You mentioned once, just in passing, that you used to paint in high school but had to stop because you couldn't afford supplies, Terrence said softly. I thought maybe you'd want to start again. Emma walked into the room, touching the easels with reverent fingers. I can't believe you remembered that. I barely remember telling you. I remember everything about you, Emma. The big things and the small things. That's what love is. She turned to him, tears flowing freely now, but they were different tears. Not tears of betrayal or anger, but something more complex. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of forgiveness. We have a lot of work to do, she said. A lot of conversations to have. A lot of trust to rebuild. I know, Terrence agreed. But I think, Emma continued, moving closer to him, I think we might actually be able to do it. Because despite everything, despite the lies and the tests and the secrets, I still love you. And I hate that I love you right now, but I do. I love you too, Terrence said. The real you, the whole you, baggage and all. I'm sorry it took me so long to trust that. Emma took his hand and led him out of the studio, back downstairs to the living room. Okay, start talking. I want to know everything. And Terrence. Yeah. Tomorrow, we're going to have a serious conversation about finances in this marriage. Joint accounts, budgets. All of it. If we're partners, we're equal partners. Your money is our money, which also means I get a say in how it's used. Terrence smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. I wouldn't have it any other way. They